What is up guys, Clay Enjoyer here, and it's time to enjoy. In this video, I'm making Mario Kart. Well, I guess if you wanted to get technical with it, it's Mario in a cart. And that cart is not a car, it's an old Italian car. Not to get specific on you, but that's what the caption said for the picture that I was looking up. Most of my sculptures start out like a sandwich, with aluminum foil and wire as the insides or the filling, and then the bread is the clay. But in this sculpture, it's actually just bread with more bread, because of how much clay I'm having to bulk up around either side, because I really awfully measured how much aluminum foil to clay I actually needed, and I used a tiny bit more than I really wanted to, but that's okay, because in the end, it's only my expense, it's not yours. All you guys get to do is watch and enjoy, and I get to pay. But that's okay, because I can try and take some of the clay back by cutting off the edges and smoothing the thing down, because obviously, there is no car in existence that's just a rectangle with wheels. So I gotta make this car not rectangular shaped before then blending in some extra hot dogs of clay from the front to the back of the car to make it look not like a hot dog, and maybe more like a bun if you are blind, but also it's up to interpretation. Because like Aristotle said, something interpretation in the eye of the beholder or something like that. But I do need to make this hot dog bun car a little bit thicker so I can blend some more clay in and around it, especially for the back hood, because I need somewhere for the seat to go eventually, and Mario will need some back support, which will be helpful, because I think he's pretty old at this point. But instead of the back of the car, I can start working on the front, with this grill blending it into the front, which looks pretty weird that I'm sculpting it at this point, but now I'm actually going back to the middle to put even more clay on this already bulked up hot dog to try and make it smooth, before then trying to correct this grill and make it look kinda normal. The car really looks like it's super surprised now instead of an actual grill, but that's okay because I can put the grill inside the car's shocked expression, and which is pretty simple, but I just was trying to be incredibly careful on camera, so I was just super slow in detailing it, because I was trying to make all the grates look at least somewhat 3D, but I don't really know how well I was actually able to accomplish that, before then doing the same thing with the lights, except they're circles, not screaming faces, which the car kinda has, but I don't exactly know how to work around that. But what I do know how to do is carve holes for the wheel wells off camera, and then doing the same for exhaust pipes before adding said small exhaust pipes. And this is some really gear riveting content, because it's just 2 bits of clay with a little bit more clay blended on top of it. I know, this is just such a cinematic shot. I know, I'm sorry, Mr. Carr, I'm filming your backside. My bad. But ignoring that part, I can do the same thing with the backlights that I did for the front, because again, I want them to look 3D instead of flat and boring, because I swear all my sculptures are interesting, I swear, they're not just fever dreams. And in every process of making a car, you obviously need a seat. Seat belts? Nah, just a good seat and then you're fine. Which, I don't know what I was going for, but I think it's like fancy first class leather seats, I guess, maybe in like airplanes, but I will eventually take off the headrest because I think it makes the car look too tall, before also making wheels off camera, because I figured that they were so simple that you guys would just be bored and wouldn't want to see that, especially because of how not circular they are, but just don't look at that, before then finally making the main character himself, Mario. And obviously, as in the title and thumbnail, I'm making this Mario realistic instead of his character accurate character cartoon style, because I like realism better, before then carving in some wrinkles to make the cloth look realistic, as I just said for the face, which I will be making shortly, followed by some buttons and a square of clay to act as a pocket. I was thinking about doing a belt right now, but I figured it's way too late if I actually wanted to do that. But I do think he's looking fine either way, before then putting in the steering wheel, because I wanted to get a good spot for his hand, and well, I didn't have one, so I felt like that was pretty important if you actually want to steer the car, and not just, I don't know, drive off a cliff. Then with his hands done, I can finally start making Mario's head, which the hands were just pretty simple. I just wanted to make sure they were curved around the wheel and resting on the side of the car. And like all Mario heads I've ever made, which is probably just like 1 or 2 at this point, it's the same thing as most other heads, it's just a bit smaller, but one gigantic mustache in comparison to his face, which is just character accurate, because I don't know what you guys expected, but I will include things like ears and eyes and hair, but said eyes are going to be covered by some shades, and his mouth is going to be covered by a giant cigar, because I thought that was kind of funny, and because if he's Italian, that's just character accurate, so like basically world building, or Mario building, before then also adding on some hair, because again, he's Italian, he needs some Italian-esque looking hair. While Mario and his car being in a snowstorm would be cool, I think that's a little bit too much white, so I'm gonna paint the car red, because that looks a lot better in my opinion, and it's just a lot brighter, so hopefully it'll really draw your eye to the car, and then Mario second, but whichever one you're looking at first. Followed by some highlights, because I want this car to look like it's actually 3D instead of just something that's flat and boring, because it also makes the car just look more interesting. And if there's highlights, there has to be shadows, which are pretty self-explanatory. They're just in the lower, less visible parts of the car, which also is the underside, like in this front here and under the corners of the doors, because of course that's where they would be. Followed by the brown of the chair, because I wanted it to have some contrast instead of just also being red, because these lights are red as well, and they're only slightly different. You kind of have to squint to actually notice the difference. But these lights, they are super bright, so you can really tell what they look like. And I didn't do a super good job, but I did some white in the middle and tried to blend it out to make it look like a gradient, but this gradient is pretty messy. But hopefully with this extra shiny grill, I can take your mind off of it. And the same thing for the metal exhaust pipes instead of the horribly painted lights. But I want the grills to look even better, so I dry brushed some more gunmetal gray over top and makes it look a bit more 3D. Before then showing off the front of the car for some reason, and then painting the wheels, which I don't know why I decided to paint the worst looking wheel out of all 4, but silver gunmetal in the middle for the rim, even though this is a pretty weirdly shaped rim, followed by the super thick tires, because I felt like this would be appropriate for the Mario Kart car theme, instead of like an actual realistic wheel, and I can pop those in place, and I only just barely managed to get them to fit. For some reason, I didn't even bother actually trying to fit them to begin with. But with a little bit of a test drive, I can now start painting Mario, which is with his blue pants, as anyone would have expected, followed by his red shirt, which does look pretty close to the other thing of the entire car, but it's gonna have a bit more orange hue instead of like a pinkish hue, followed by some more highlights that I did off camera, and some extra detail in terms of painting the wheel black to also make it stand out, which is pretty self-explanatory, but I can also give the pants a light blue dry brushing on the pants to make them look more realistic, followed by a red light dry brush on the sleeves as well. But I'll make sure to go back and make it look a little bit more realistic, because I think I had a tiny bit too much paint on my brush, so this coat actually looks better than the other one, but it's all in the eye of the beholder, which, I don't know, you can draw whatever conclusions you want, but the conclusion that I know we all can draw is that I really had to fix up these gloves and give them a more consistent coat of white, which makes it look a lot better, before then finally starting to paint Mario's face, which I decapitated because it'd be easier to paint him instead of being attached to the car. And because Mario is not perfectly pale, I need to give him some light brown skin, which makes him look like an actual person instead of a ghost. Which, I'm not going for a ghost, obviously, but with the skin done, I can paint his shades black, followed by his cigar, which is technically a super dark brown, but it basically looks black, so either way that's fine. Before painting a little bit of detail on the cigar, I can attach Mario's head back to his body with a little bit of super glue, before then doing a bunch of high gloss varnish, because I want this car to look smooth and shiny like an actual car. And now it is finally time to make the base, which is actually made of something different this time, which is this plexiglass or acrylic sheet, which I can sand down very aggressively, so aggressively that the camera starts shaking, but don't worry, it won't actually fall, because I'm really trying to get it to this curved shape and smooth out the bumpiness, because I'm trying to make this base look good, but little do I know that that'll just get covered in the end, so that was all really for nothing. But that's okay, because it makes the video a tiny bit longer and makes the base look cool, because I'm actually making it different, because I'm not using the foam, I'm actually using cardboard and a bunch of hot glue, and lights. Just don't even look at that. I swear it'll look good, I promise. But the main attraction is this plexiglass sheet, which I can start painting in colors of the rainbow, starting with red, but not doing the other ones on camera because it's annoying. And after about 7 coats later, it looks good enough, before then putting a little bit of white in the middle of each strand, because I thought that it would make them look brighter, but it turns out when I was testing the lights, they actually did not. So I just painted another 3 layers over, and now I can glue that part of the base in place. And we got something that's almost done. And this is just a quick warning that while I turn the lights on, just look away, because I'm gonna blast your eyes with the power of Apollo. Did you look away? Well, I sure hope so, because the lights were definitely that bright, and I definitely just wasn't lying. But what I'm not lying about is all of these cotton balls around the base, because they make an unsightly edge around the plexiglass and the cardboard, and I figured this is Rainbow Road, so it's in the clouds, because that's where rainbows are found, I'm pretty sure. And with the car in place, it's on to the reveal. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe for more realistic Mario Karting adventures next. And also, I swear I didn't see this until it was too late. The car is not sweaty, it's shiny, I swear. Well, see you in the next video. Bye.